I do want to thank Asterisk Media, which is filming everything you're seeing right now. They happen to work out of Project RHINO, which is the space we're in, and Steamwhistle for providing us with some beer today. I'm going to take some pictures and Instagram them. Maybe I'll do a keek, spread it out to all my friends. All right, and welcome to the most recent edition of Drinks and Demos. Today we're going to be taking a look inside the mind of a VC. We're going to have a little chat here. We're very fortunate to have Matthew Leibowitz and Greg Isenberg. Matthew is a partner at Plazacorp Ventures right here in Toronto. And Greg is a man of the world. He actually just flew in from San Francisco today, but he does call Montreal home. And I think he's on record as saying that Montreal is one of the worst cities to be a startup founder. There will be no Googles founded in Montreal. So move from Montreal if you want to found Google. But I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves individually and just sort of, say who they are. So Matt or Greg.
Hey, I'm Greg Isenberg. So I have a fund based in Montreal, but we don't really do many Montreal investments. We're called Good People Ventures. It's really like a micro VC fund, our own capital, so we don't have people invested in us, just our own money that we're investing. Write checks 25 to 250K. And also have a startup kind of on the side called 5by.tv.
Hey, Matt Leibowitz, as mentioned, partner at Plazacorp Ventures. Plazacorp, we're a real estate developer, one of the larger real estate developers in the country, building about 14, 15 buildings right now in the GTA. We've been investing in early stage technology companies for about 30 or so years, probably invested in north of 65, 70 companies. Came together as a formal group about 4 years ago. That's the Plazacorp Venture side. Also, not a traditional fund manager. We're what I would refer to as a corporate micro VC. We generally invest in the GTA region, although that's not a rule of thumb. We're open to investing in other jurisdictions. Generally, check size is anywhere from, call it 250 to 1.2, 1.3 million. And we typically co-invest with either other angel investors or other VCs or a lot of people from the States as well too. So we have a pretty wide spectrum in terms of the types of companies and check sizes and structures in which we can invest in a company.
So I've brought these two people here today. First I asked them and they said yes, which I thought was great. But they do have different viewpoints. I think if you talk to a dozen different investors, they're going to say that this is, there will be commonalities in what they look for. But there's also going to be their personal biases in there as well. And so I was fortunate enough to meet with Matt back in, I guess it was early January. And, he was ragging after me for, show me your path to monetization. Show me where you're going to make the money. Is it so wrong that I want you to make money? And, the answer was no. And that sort of fundamentally changed how I view Connect.me. And it's, where do we want to go? We can talk about getting lots of users. And then I met with, Greg, who, also wants to know where the money is going to come from potentially. But he gets, excited by lots of users and, being international. And I actually don't want to put words in his mouth. But what I want to ask you guys independently is what gets you excited about a startup? What do you look for? What are your, 2 or 3 things?
Generally, what we look for, number one, and I know it's a bit cliched, but it's 100% true, is the people is the most important thing in any startup company that I've ever been involved with. Management teams will make or break an investment period. Secondly, we look for I like to look for scalable businesses. I like companies that can sell a product, whether it's in Toronto or Timbuktu or Taipei, it doesn't matter. I like those kinds of companies that have a global reach, if you will, or can sell to global customers. And I like recurring revenue models. I like contracts. I like 2-3 year contracts where you have a piece of paper that says, I'm going to pay you X every month for the next 3 years. So I like that kind of stuff too. But if you look at our investment track record, you'll see some things that completely go against everything I just said, for better or for worse.
So when we invest, we really invest based on the space. So there's let's say a dozen spaces that we think over the next 5 years, are really going to change and really disruptive. So an example of that would be like peer-to-peer marketplaces, video discovery, that sort of thing. And I think that we really invest. I mean, again, cliche to say, but we really bet on the horse. I mean, last week we invested in a company, notable founder. I mean, the guy has it was literally, a napkin with some drawings on it, and we invested in him because, we believe that, he can kind of figure it out. And he's in a space where he can kind of you have to be able to move around, if you pick a small market to build your business in, you don't really have kind of room to move around, and that's something we really look for. So yeah, I'd say founder, space, and the ability to move around, because at the end of the day, the business that you start to work in, it's very quickly going to change. So you have to be super passionate about the particular space you're in, and kind of go from there.
Okay, so let's say, I don't know, how many people in the room today are looking to raise money or have an idea they think is worthy of money? A few hands? Okay, maybe half the hands. What's the best way to get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, so you could kind of email me. My email is Greg, Greg, Isenberg, Isenberg @gmail.com. I mean, you could send me an email. The question is, will I
reply the email?
Will I reply? Will I read it? And there's an art to all of this.
Yeah, definitely.
First of all, never cold email anyone. Don't, if you're ever gonna be hey, the chances of someone like us responding and saying, hey, my name is Joe and I have this really cool startup and I'm really great and you should fund me, with a hard ask like that, it's just not going to work. So the trick is find someone that I respect or that Matt respects, and get an introduction through that person, and then we'll basically meet with you. I'm talking for you right now, but I would imagine that if you got a warm introduction from
Yeah, warm is better than cold for sure. But at the same token, I was on a panel similar to this a few years ago, and there was many people in the audience, and it was the Q&A time, and this person was like, how do we get in touch with you, in your ivory tower or whatever? I'm like, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on the website, there's my number, there's my email address, there's my LinkedIn account, you can call me. It's cool. You can call us. But definitely one thing as a preference that I have is, a bit of a mini pet peeve that I have is when someone adds me to LinkedIn, it's just a sort of the boilerplate, I'd like to connect with you in my LinkedIn network. Well, at least spend 5 seconds and say, hey, Matt, saw you at this event, or we met. I've got this cool idea I'm working on. Do you have 3 seconds or 4 hours to look at something? Just do sort of a nice intro versus just add someone to LinkedIn, and or look on my LinkedIn connections. If we know somebody in common, get in touch with that person, like a lawyer, an accountant, or somebody like that, to just say, that you may or may not be working with. Just say, hey, Matt, do you know this guy or this girl? Can you put me in touch with Matt or Greg or whomever? I definitely think that that's a better way to do it. And, it's really not that hard. Just make the call.
I kind of like to think that, you're in the business of making money, and, you want to find the best people. And if someone's coming to you,
yeah, the secret that most VCs will never say is that, we need you guys, okay? So this is what a lot of people won't reveal, is that we actually don't make any money unless you guys approach us or unless we find you. We need to be investing in the next best thing, whatever that might be. And so, we need you guys as much as you need us. If not, it depends on what side of the spectrum you can believe in. But at the same token, I'm a firm believer that, you ask what do we look for, and one of the analogies that I use is that imagine if you're fighting in a war together, you want to be shoulder to shoulder with someone that you're going to be in the trenches with, fighting in the trenches with, and ultimately that's what this is. I'm not investing in you, I'm not your overlord, we're business partners. If you look at the agreement, they're partnership agreements, okay? And I take that word very, very seriously. We are business partners, end of story, okay? It just so happens that I'm providing the capital and you're providing the business, running the operation. So to that end, I think that's very, very important to think about as well too.
So let's fast forward. Let's pretend that you each just wrote me, I don't know, $100,000 check, or maybe in your case, $250,000 check. What's it like to work with you? What happens after? What do you expect? This is, I think, maybe worse than marriage.
It's way worse than marriage. No, it's not. It's marriage. Well, no. I take that back. No, it's different. I'm just trying to think of the parallels. Okay, hold on. No, okay, so, raising money is never an easy thing to do, okay? It doesn't matter who you are. It's always hard to raise money. But then, of course, there's things that we want to see. And I'm a governance, nut, okay? So I like to see proper board reporting. I like to see proper weekly updates. Yes, weekly updates. I like to speak to my CEOs at least once or twice a week, just sort of a lay of the land, what's going on, a state of the union kind of thing. I like to be very entrenched with the company and as to what's going on. Personally, I'm a firm believer that communication, if you just sit and talk with somebody, you can generally solve most problems, or at least attempt to solve many problems, that is. So I'd like to ramp up the communication. Raising money is hard, but taking that money and then taking one of my dollars or Greg's dollars or whomever's dollars and turning it into $5 or $10, well, that's the real hard part.
Right, yeah. So just speaking of that, I always say that, when you raise money, is that, everyone kind of celebrates the raising of money. It's always like, oh, that guy raised, $1.2 million and congratulations. That just means that you have to, return 10 times the amount of money. It's not like something that should be celebrated. It should be scared, shitless, really.
Absolutely. And we're not your uncle. So, we're not going to forgive the money that we invested in you. We're business people. We're not to sound harsh, but we're not family that can say, not a big deal, right?
Yeah, in terms of so we're actually kind of different because he's more of a traditional venture guy and I'm more of an angel. I mean, you are a micro VC, but we're writing smaller checks at the end of the day. So what I expect out of the companies that we invest in is, and I'm kind of like a chill, laid back type guy. So I basically say okay, I invested in you. These are the following things I'm really good at. I'm good at customer acquisition. I'm good at UI UX. I'm good at connecting you with people in San Francisco. It's up to you to utilize me and use my network, use all that, and I'm gonna let you I trust the person. If I'm investing, let's say $100,000, I'm gonna say okay. I trust the person to kind of drive the business. So yeah, I mean, I do expect, investor updates maybe once a month. And I do expect, these founders to, call on me when they do need help. But that's really, really about it. I mean, I've invested in companies, we've invested in companies that I don't even know what they're doing, where they are, what's going on, but we're on the cap table. But I think, at the end of the day, because how early we come in, we always come in usually first. We're the first money in, basically. So, because of how early we are, we just we're a bit more hands off in general.
So if Greg has given you money, give him an update. He has no idea what you're up to. So what are some of the more notable or not notable investments you've made? And is there anything that, having because we like to talk about, entrepreneurs have failures and that's okay. Investors have failures as well. That's why Dave McClure has his 500 startups where it's, you got to take the shots to score the goals.
Yeah. I'll take that one. One of my worst investments was, is this being published somewhere?
I will probably put this on the internet.
Do you see that over there? That's a camera.
Okay. All right, whatever, you know? One of my worst investments was a company, I don't even know why I'm like trying to speak low. This is fucking getting published. Shh.
It's on the down low.
Here's something I've learned, okay? I got approached by, I can't believe I'm saying this. I got approached by,
Don't say it.
I want to say it though, because I think there's learning.
Good to get off your chest?
Okay, I'm not going to say the exact company. There's a company that came to me, and they're raising $3 million on a $6 million pre-money valuation, New York company. And it's based on a PowerPoint presentation. I get, it's a very notable guy, was in the venture space. This is his first, you would know, if I said the name, you would know who he is. He's a well-known venture guy. It's his first, his first kind of operational gig. So I'm like, okay, this guy's like awesome. He has like the who's who in, investing from, the Dave Tisches to the IA Ventures to, just really the who's who. So he comes to me and he's like, okay, do you want to be in? And I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I'm going to be in this the hottest deal. Like this is like the next Facebook. This is like, is in that space. I got to, okay, we'll put 50K. He comes back to me and says, you know what, we don't have space for 50K, but you can only put 25K. At this point, I'm like, okay, like whatever, that sucks, but whatever. He raised $3 million on a $6 million pre, and which is crazy on an idea.
Yeah. Why is he giving up 50% of the company?
I mean, yeah, so he gave a lot. Yeah. Anyways, he gave away a lot of the company, but his argument was he's getting the right people in, but it was very much a party round. Like it was like everyone was in that kind of round. Anyways, turns out he took the $3 million, took about a year and a half to launch the product, and then about 3 weeks later after he launched the product. After many, many delays, the company shut down. So my lessons that I learned was don't always trust, notable, people. Like just because they're good at telling stories doesn't mean they're good at building businesses. Second, don't invest in companies that, and I've broken this rule in some occasions, but don't invest in companies that have what I call ghetto but valuable products. Like at least have a product that is like ghetto enough so someone could have some value to it. Like there's something there. Like you can actually test something there. Like so that's something I've learned. And yeah, that was probably my worst story. Just like they basically took $3 million, they wasted it, and they didn't really build anything.
So I'm not going to talk about any failed investments.
I love how you've reshaped the conversation now.
Yeah, for various...
Acknowledge the question and answer what you want.
Right, got it. So I'll talk about a current success, or what we believe is a current success. Is a company called Keek. It's a local Toronto company. Some of you may have heard of it. It's think Twitter for YouTube plus Facebook. So it's you can take an up to 36-second video of yourself with your mobile phone or on your laptop, and then with one push, send it out to everyone in your social network. So it's YouTube for Twitter. And we were the first investors in the company about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, give or take. We've now closed, I think there's been in total 5 rounds of financing in about a year and a half. All in has been about $30 million into the company in about a year and a half. They currently have, it really took off. It was really, sort of slow initially. We completely repositioned the company, certainly in the onset of the business. And then once they hit about 250,000 users, so I don't know if any of you guys are working on sort of the social media company or anything that's a consumer product, but for whatever reason, once they hit 250,000 users, it really just started to for lack of a better term, explode. And that was in March, give or take. So almost not quite a year ago. They currently have about 23, 24 million users now. It's really taken off like nothing I've ever seen in my career, having invested in dozens of startups. But it's pretty cool. Hopefully it works, and they haven't made any money yet. It's still pre-revenue. We just closed a large round of financing in them. Well, it closed right before Christmas, but the press release went out about 3-4 weeks ago. So it's pretty funny. I was telling Greg earlier because he was asking me about it, and wherever I go, almost every single solitary day, the first 2 questions people ask me are, hey Matt, how's it going? And the second question invariably is, Matt, what's going on? What's up with Keek? And it's kind of a boilerplate answer. It's like it's cool. It's doing well. And so in fact, they were in the Toronto Star this morning. I had no idea. And a buddy of mine sent it to me that I had lunch with the other day. He said, hey, just saw this article on Keek. And so, the numbers are pretty outstanding right now. It looks great. And this investment has completely gone against my entire investment philosophy. We took a total flyer on it when we first invested on it. We'll happily admit that. I'd love to say that, we've had a big hand in terms of, helping it get to where it is today. But I don't know if that's the case. It's one of these totally viral things. Somewhat overused term, but that's where it's at. So that seems pretty cool. Aside from that, most of my investments have typically been in relatively quote unquote unsexy software as a service enterprise companies that sell a business software suite of software products to Fortune 1000 type companies that solve a specific business problem. They pay on a monthly basis, as I was alluding to earlier, typical SaaS revenue. There's a lot of companies in that space. You can see where they trade and what they go public for and what they get acquired for, and you can look at the various multiples. There's lots of acquirers in that space as well too, and so typically that's where I have made most of our investments, and we've had a few big wins there too. A few years ago, sold a company for about 260 million, 250 million. That was not last December, to December before. Number of others, sold companies to people like Microsoft, Yahoo, CompuWare, Seagate. A few companies gone public on NASDAQ, things of that nature.
That's actually a great transition, because I was just going to ask you about your expectations on an exit. So, you put money in. Obviously, at some point, you want to take much more money out. Do you ever pressure founders to, be acquired, or I would say go public, but that doesn't happen here much in Canada. What's your time frame when you make an investment?
Sure. You want me to start?
Sure.
So generally, there's no. First of all, it always takes longer than one anticipates, or one budgets for, or one allocates. That's a pretty general rule of thumb. So if you think you're going to be out of the investment in, 18 months, it's going to be 36 months. Generally, what I try to do is be out within 4 years. That's what I'd like to see in terms of clarity. But I generally would like to invest in a management team, or we would like to invest in a management team that has an alignment of thinking in that they'd like to be out of the business, or at least move towards a trade sale or an IPO or some sort of liquidity event within the next 18 to 36 months. So I want to align before we invest in a company. I want to be able to look the founders in the eye and say, okay, I'm not interested in a lifestyle business, because to me, if you're in it for longer than 5 to 7 years, or after 5 years, to me it's a lifestyle business. I'm not interested in investing in someone's service/lifestyle business. So most investors aren't. So from that perspective, I think most investors would like to be out within 4 years. If/when that happens, that's great. But on paper, I like to say 4 years, but that's not always the case.
So when we started our fund one, our goal was we want 2 times return in 5 years minimum. So we'd be upset with anything basically lower than 2 times. So that's like if it was 1.8 times, we would go and blow our brains out and be very upset. So yeah, that's basically where we sit at. So we'll probably do in fund one, we'll probably do about 20-ish investments. And, you know, hopefully, probably what's going to happen is a third of them are going to fail. Basically, the way the math usually works is a third of companies, you know, this is Silicon Valley-based companies. A third of Silicon Valley, a third of the companies fail. A third will give you your money back, and a third will give you 2 to Google times return. So, yeah.
Well, if everyone can give me a big round of applause to thank Matt and Greg for coming out.